Hey, boss, will I show Mike the Arncliffe job today?
Is he up for it?
Well, I think he's getting there.
Do you think we can trust him on it?
Maybe next week then.
This discussion between Dave, the young engineer that had been given the task of orientating me into the railways, and my boss went on for a few weeks. It was my first job after graduating, and Dave and I had developed an interesting friendship. My mother used to say, though, "The ends does not justify the means." Deep words, really. I mean, did the end of the war justify dropping an atomic bomb? Did a good tax rebate justify telling a few fibs on your tax return? Dave, however, would say,
"The end certainly justifies the means. You'd be a fool to think otherwise."
Dave's desired ends were 1, to get rich, and 2, to score with the prettiest girls. And the means were, well, anything that allowed him to do it. He was always devising schemes. One day he decided that the best way to get rich was to marry into money.
Where do rich people hang out? At the races? The members' bar. And if I had a horse, I could get in there. And then, I could meet a rich chick.
So Dave went out and purchased a horse. A cheap one, of course. But miracle upon miracles, this horse started to win races. But Dave wasn't satisfied. He wanted more. And he worked out that if he could get his horse to lose when it was the favourite, he could put his money on the other horse and get much better odds. This, of course, is called race fixing and highly illegal. Luckily, in my mind, for Dave, his horse wasn't very compliant and won the race anyway. And,
stupid horse, did my money.
In the railways, if we had to work a certain distance away from the depot that we were based at, we were paid an allowance.
Okay, we're off to Parramatta. What? No, there's no job there. But we got to get our allowance.
There didn't seem to be a trick that this guy didn't know.
Okay, Mike, the boss says I can take and show you the Arncliffe job today, so come with me.
As we drove off, I wondered what the job was. Maybe it had some technical challenges that they thought that I was up to. But when we got there, it was the Arncliffe Workers' Club. It was just a pseudonym for, well, a long lunch. We had a hot meal. We went into a number of shouts. That's Australian for, well, I'll buy you a drink and then you buy me a drink. And we played the one-armed bandits, which is Australian for poker machines. 3 hours later, we returned to the depot, having done no engineering work at all. As we walked in, the boss said, "How was the Arncliffe job, boys?" "Good," I replied. But it didn't sit well with me. I had become a Christian, and the Bible told me that in everything I do, I should do it as if I'm serving the Lord. I was employed as an engineer, and my job was to work in the interests of the people of New South Wales by supplying them with an efficient railway system. I didn't see how this was in their interests. So I spoke to my father. Focus on the things you can change, Mike. I'm afraid because this practice is condoned by your supervisors, trying to change it at this stage in your career would be like, well, flogging a dead horse. What would your advice have been? I wanted to be someone that made a difference. I wanted through my life to show that God's ways were best. But working in such a culture was hard. It's not that I didn't like the people. They were nice to me and they were fun, but they certainly had a different idea of the word integrity. One day, Dave came into the office a little bit under the weather.
I think I partied too hard last night. But I met this beautiful girl. At least, I think she was. It could have been the drink. All I remember is she had this really long hair and that she worked in a chemist at Arncliffe. So I think we should go and check out the Arncliffe job today, Mike.
As we drove out, he hatched a scheme.
OK, Mike, we're at Arncliffe, so you check out the chemist, and if you see a pretty girl with long hair, come and get me, OK?
I did, and sure enough, there was.
OK, this is the plan. I'm going to go in there and ask her out for lunch. If she comes out, then you've got to pretend that I'm the boss of the railways, OK? And you're my driver. Call me Mr. Smith, OK? And now get the trouble office to give us a call, and I'll make out like it's something really important. You know, the idea is, the plan is that she's got to think that I'm someone really important, OK?
The plan went off without a hitch. But the relationship didn't last. And by chance, I met up with this same girl a few months later at a party. She recognised me, and I asked her if she was really deceived by our deception. She said no, she saw right through it from the start, but she was so impressed by the effort we went to, she had to see it through to the end. I often wonder about David. Did he ever get rich? Did he ever find his pretty girl? One thing for certain was that he didn't believe that someone would love him for who he really was. He lived instead in a life of deception. He used his lies as his means to get to his end. I admired Dave's drive and determination, but as for me, well, my end was already determined. I was a loved child of God. I was rich beyond comprehension in the things that mattered, and my future was promised. This finally meant that I left the railways. One of the reasons was I could see that the culture was starting to impact me. I was becoming accustomed to it. I started to think that it was normal. But I believed that God had called me to be an engineer to make a difference. So I needed to find a place with a culture that would help me to grow and have the skills to make that difference. My next job helped me along the way. Thanks for listening to my story so far. How is the work culture that you are in? Is it impacting you for the better or for the worst? Let me know in the comments below. Also, if you want to know more about the Lord Jesus, give us a hoy in the comments below. Anyway, thanks for listening. Give me a like and subscribe. And God bless.